Hey, it's Rianne Thompson here from BBC Music introducing on Radio Tees. And this is the first of a series of Noisy Daughters and Tees Music Alliance chats with women working behind the scenes in the music industry. This is part of the Digital Tenderness project, which has kept the music community connected over the last couple of months. Joining me today is Claire Dupree, founder and editor of NARC magazine, and Sarah Wilson from the Darlington-based music organisation Tracks. She's also the founder of Noisy Daughters and manages events. Thank you both for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having us on.
Amazing. So let's get started. So Claire, where did it all begin for you and what were your first steps into the industry?
So I've always been just a huge music fan, a real kind of lover of music from being a kid, and I've always loved writing. So the two sort of just naturally intersected for me. In terms of how I started writing, I probably began just doing reviews for local newspapers, if they would let me, when I was younger, and eventually kind of graduated up to proper magazines. I started writing for The Crack and the Journal. Eventually convinced the Journal into giving me my own sort of page talking about local music. And it kind of burgeoned from there, really. But I'm entirely self-taught. I didn't study creative writing. I don't have a journalism degree. It's very much just sort of a passion, really.
And same to you, Sarah. So how did you kind of get into the industry and what were your first steps?
Well, I started out as a musician in a band, playing my first gig at the tender age of 14. And it kind of, it sort of went from there, really. As a musician, as a young musician, very young musician, sometimes it's quite difficult to get gigs, or you'd turn up to play at a gig and it wouldn't have been promoted, or the promoter wouldn't be very nice, or the sound engineer wasn't very good, or the PA wasn't very good. And it kind of we got to a point as a band where we're like, do you know what, let's just organise some of our own gigs. We'll hire the room above the pub, we'll design and print the posters, and we'll hire the PA and try and make a go of it ourselves. So it kind of, the first gigs I put on kind of came out of a necessity to create our own gigs because we weren't happy with the gigs that we were being offered or that we were doing. So we sort of made our own sort of events, and it kind of just grew from there, really. I then went on to work at the Forum Music Centre for 7 years. I was the events manager there. And then after I left there, I sort of had a bit of a breather from the music world, and then came back to it and was like, do you know what, I really love this, and started putting gigs on again. So yeah, kind of like Claire, really, a big music fan, and that sort of drive to want to create something good to share with other music fans.
Amazing. And so how did you get to your position as Tracks and also Noisy Daughters?
So Tracks came about sort of at that point when I'd had a bit of a breather from putting on gigs and things, and just linking up with a couple of like-minded people who were doing similar things. And, you know, we just thought, let's pool our resources and support each other in what we're trying to do and what we're trying to create. We had some support from Tees Music Alliance, actually, to get started, and Creative Darlington helped us to sort of set up as a proper business. We're a non-for-profit community interest company now, and it meant that we sort of had a bit more of a level of respect when we were within the industry, and being able to apply for funding and things to create special music events for the North East scene. And then Noisy Daughters, because of my background as a female in the music industry, from the side of being a promoter, but also from the side of playing in bands, I've always seen the inequalities in the music industry, and I think after I'd had that little bit of a break from the music industry and then coming back to it, I was just so gutted to see that it was still a problem. It hadn't progressed at all. I don't know what I was thinking, you know, a couple of years, oh yeah, it'll sort itself right out. But I think we see in society, we see lots of changes happening, so you can get a bit you'd be a bit naive and think, oh, we have progressed, we've come on loads. And then when you actually go, oh God, actually, no. I've just been to see some bands. I haven't just been to see some bands because of lockdown, but for example, you just go to watch a couple of bands play, all lads, sound engineer's a man, promoter's a man, and you just go, oh, how come, where's the change? When's the change come in? I thought we were making a change. There hasn't really been much of a change. So Noisy Daughters was born off the back of that, really. You know, the fight still very much needs fighting. It doesn't really need to be a fight, but the change has to come. And Noisy Daughters is trying to be a part of that change, really.
Absolutely. Okay, so Claire, could you just talk us through your job role as editor? I'm really intrigued to know what it involves, because I feel like it's such a big title, and being the founder of a magazine as well, I feel like you're always sending out the emails and everything. But just from an outsider's perspective, kind of how would a day in the life of Claire Dupree go?
It would start with spreadsheets. Basically, my life is ruled by spreadsheets. Yeah, I mean, I have to be super organized is the main sort of skill, I think. I tend to, obviously being a monthly magazine, everything that's in the magazine that we're working on has to happen in the month that we're sort of talking about. So it's very much a case of lots of research, finding out what's happening. Easier sometimes than others, obviously, when there's been a national pandemic. Finding gigs to write about is a little bit harder, but in general, lots of research about what's going on, talking to people as much as possible, on the phone, on email, just doing, you know, general kind of updates with, find out what's going on around the region. I deal with, we have around 50 or so writers, I guess. Not all of them do stuff every month, but talking to them, they're, you know, really very much the boots on the ground, and they have lots of specialisms and lots of interests and lots of knowledge that I don't have. So I rely on them really heavily to, you know, tell us other things that are going on I don't know about, and to suggest things that they might want to write. So I tend to, yeah, send out lots of emails to writers and ask them to do odds and things, and research continually, and sell advertising and marketing, social media, when there used to be gig events and things like that. The odd freelance bits of things as well, just to keep myself in wine and beans. And yeah, just lots. My day is long and varied, which is how I like it, really. I like to be busy.
When? I was going to say, when do you have time to sleep? That sounds like a lot of roles into kind of one. Very varied day. I'm guessing very varied weeks. And I'm kind of the same with that. I like to keep things like doing different bits and bobs and everything. But so do you have anybody else as part of the team? I know you've got your writers, but is it just you as the core member, and then you kind of rely on, like you were saying, leaning on the writers and other people to come through?
Yeah, so aside from me, David Saunders runs our website, and he works one day a week, often more actually, because he has lots of great stuff sort of going on the site. And the site has really become a real expansion of the things that we do, particularly over lockdown, but really in the last few years. You know, we've got to grips a lot more with digital content, and you know, there's lots of different kind of things that happen on the website that can't happen in a printed magazine. And obviously now we do things like NARC TV as well. So that, you know, is a YouTube video kind of magazine style program. So lots of other stuff that goes on with that. And David, who co-hosts that with me. So yeah, he's very much an integral part of the team. And we have a designer, Vicky Markham, who makes it look amazing, and really is the kind of the creative drive of the magazine as well. It looks amazing and has the kind of aesthetic and the profile it has because of her work. So really it's the three of us who are the only paid members of staff, and everybody else is just amazing contributors, and you know, really they are the kind of the main voice, I guess, of the magazine, and the things that they just kind of end up going in. But yeah, so it's a small team, but we work pretty well because we're super organized, because we've got lots of spreadsheets. All about the spreadsheet.
Same. And Sarah, so you've managed events, like you said, you worked at the Forum for 7 years. What kind of skills do you need for that job role?
I think, well, like Claire said, to be organised is vital, and to plan ahead, there's no point in booking a gig for next weekend and putting the posters up tomorrow. So yeah, planning ahead, having a good time scale, doing your research, go and see the bands that you want to book, to see what they're like live. It's one thing listening to somebody, you know, on the internet or whatever, and thinking, oh, I quite like the sound of that. But I always think it's good to see a band play live. Obviously, that's not always practical, but if at all possible, I would always go and see a band play live before I booked them. It makes me feel a bit nervous if I haven't seen them, and then I go, oh yeah, everyone come and see this band. I've never seen them, but so yeah, being organised, having a passion and an interest and an enthusiasm, and also working hard to build those good relationships with bands and agents and managers, so that when an artist does come and work with us at an event, that they have a positive experience. So being friendly as well, I think, is really important. And organisations, we work with a lot of spreadsheets. I'm a bit rubbish at a spreadsheet, but Rob, my business partner, is amazing at spreadsheets. Him and Claire would just be like the spreadsheet dream team, I think. When he colours in a box and I use the wrong colour shade of green or something, you know, it's like, what are you doing? Reckoning the spreadsheets. So yeah, guys, we're not making it sound very exciting, are we? Right, kids, you need to be really good at spreadsheets. But I think, yeah, it's those organisational skills. It's being friendly and it's being organised in all aspects, you know, of putting on a gig, whether it's working with the venue, the printers who are printing your posters, the local radio DJs who might plug your gig, you know, all of those things. It's planning ahead, being organised and being friendly, I think.
And what about your role at Tracks? Because you said you apply for funding. So how can you kind of get into that? I feel like there's a thing around funding where there are big applications, and, you know, how can you learn how to kind of fill out those forms and have a sort of, you know, a likelihood of actually receiving some kind of funding? Like, where did you learn the skills for that?
I was very lucky in that we got some mentoring from Tees Music Alliance to get us through that, you know, learn that process. Before Tracks was formed and I was putting on family gigs, big little gigs, I applied to Arts Council twice and I got turned down both times. I think having an organisation around you, having a bank account, having a constitution that states what you're, you know, what you're about, because to the funders, you could be anybody. It just turned up going, can you give me some money because I want to put on a dead good gig. I think it is a really hard world to get into, and I think it can be quite elitist, and it's very disheartening when you do get turned down for funding. Always in the past, when I put on gigs, they would have to be self-sufficient. I would have to sell enough tickets to be able to pay the band, to be able to pay the wages when I worked at the Forum. As a freelance events organizer with Tracks, you know, we are very lucky in that we have managed to get a bit of leeway, and we have managed to build a bit of a relationship with various different local funders, but it's taking time. Writing funding applications is not fun, so you've got to be really committed, and also I think look at things, you've got to be doing something different to what other people are doing, and which is what we try and do. I don't want to book a cover band to come and play in Darlington. I want to book some exciting, new, interesting bands that, you know, we want to book diverse lineups, you know, and I think that is where funding can help, because it is a risk putting on something that's really different. It isn't a risk booking an Oasis tribute band. People will always come to that, sadly. But yeah, doing something a bit different, that's where funding can sometimes really help you out. How to do it, how to access it. There are courses out there, and Arts Council England has regional representatives. They're there to help people, to give advice. So you can ring them or you can email them. Anybody can do that. You know, that's their job, is to be that connection between this big funding body and creative people who want to do things. So yeah, online courses, research, speak to Arts Council, have a chat.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, I feel like that is a section of the industry that is kind of, it goes on, but if you're trying to get into that or you want to apply for some funding, it's actually really hard to access if you don't have those skills. So that's actually really helpful, I think, and something that I personally, even like working in the industry, like I don't really know that much about. I've never filled out a form, so it's good. It's good to know. It's good to know. Okay, right, Claire, let's talk a bit about how you actually founded the magazine and just how you got set up and how you got started. Where did that idea come from? When did you do it as well? Like, how far along were you in the industry before you started to think, actually, I'm going to sell this amazing thing?
Yeah, well, I kind of started, well, the magazine started in 2006. And I was, as I say, sort of writing for a couple of other local publications and going out and watching a lot of live bands and finding a real exciting scene and getting a bit frustrated because the other magazines and newspapers I was writing for wouldn't let me write basically their entire publication about local bands. So I kind of thought, well, there's clearly a load of people who really like this stuff, and there's a niche to be filled here that's just a magazine about the North East music scene that focused primarily on music at the time. So I quit my reasonably well-paid job at the Evening Chronicle and started NARC in 2006, and certainly a learning curve. We started with £0 in a bank. Actually, sorry, that's a lie. We got £500 from Gateshead Council, which is where my first office was based, to buy half a computer. And that is the
half a computer.
Half a computer.
What's one of those?
So that's the only public sort of money we've ever had. We similarly to Sarah, funding applications are just too scary, and it's not something that we've ever sort of really wanted to get involved in. I'm very much a sort of self-starter, and I would rather do it myself than have to sort of worry about where the next sort of money was coming from when it comes to funding. So my sort of background is in sales. That's where my training has been. So I think one of the reasons that the magazine has been successful is because I can sell an ice to Eskimos. But not just that, it's got a real niche, and I think it's now, obviously, 15 years later, I think we've made a place for ourselves in the regional music scene. We're a trusted voice. We're ethical, we're knowledgeable, and we genuinely care about our readers and about the artists and the cultural businesses that we're writing about. So I think that's one of the most important things about NARC, that it's there for the people that we exist to serve. I'm always up for talking to bands. I give loads of advice to people about how they can better represent themselves to the press. Even doing things like this, just to let people know that we're really open, and it is literally now, especially now, it is just me in my back bedroom doing this job and doing it for the benefit of other people. And that's why I love it, really, because I get to see people, getting something out of it.
Yeah, it's a very approachable, and I always find when I'm reading it, you can really tell that whoever's written the article, that they're really invested in the North music scene, and I think that's really nice, and that doesn't come around very often. So I think it's a really honest publication that you can just pick up, and that when you've read it, you're going to be like, you're going to have found loads of new music to listen to, which is amazing. Amazing. And so, Sarah, you talked a little bit about Noisy Daughters earlier on and why you wanted to set it up, but how did you go about doing that? Did you kind of use tracks to sort of help you move into that and establish it?
Yeah, so Tracks is kind of like that's our community interest company. Then under Tracks, we've got various different little projects or events that we like to run. So Noisy Daughters is a Tracks project. And yeah, it stemmed from, as I said earlier, seeing the inequalities that still exist in the music industry and wanted to do something about it. One of the things that we decided to do, and we got some funding from Darlington for Culture, who, to put it in context, usually fund things like Shakespeare in the Park and little art exhibitions and things like that, actually agreed to put some money towards helping us do a vinyl. compilation, which worked alongside Butterfly Effect Records, which is a Downton-based record label that do amazing stuff. So we saw, and I was just blown away. I was like, I can't believe we've actually managed to get some funding to do something like this. It's really different. Like, they're not doing things, people aren't doing things like this. So yeah, so that's like, if Noisy Daughters doesn't achieve anything else, that's definitely something that we're all really proud of. And it's the first vinyl compilation to feature female artists from the northeast. It's not been done before, and you know, it is still available if anyone wants to buy it as a download or as a vinyl. And I think that really shone a light on the Noisy Daughters project and gigs that we've done subsequently from that. It's kind of brought credibility to the project, and that it's not just a flash in the pan, it is something that we keep wanting to do. And yeah, going forwards, when lockdown eases and things, and we get back to things, we definitely will be putting on a lot, you know, some more Noisy Daughters gigs. We have been running Noisy Daughters workshops throughout lockdown. We've got another one coming up soon with Jodie Nicholson, free, funded by Arts Council, songwriting session. And yeah, they've all been really popular. So yeah, it's good. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's amazing to kind of have those, like you're saying, those workshops and the knowledge that you can get from somebody like Jodie Nicholson, who's up and coming and has been in the industry for a while, and she's got a debut album out, and she's kind of moving forward. And yeah, it's amazing. You both do amazing work. What can I say? That's why we're here. Right, okay, Claire, what advice would you give to people who may be looking to start their career in music journalism? What are your like top tips?
So top tips would be just to do it a lot. When I first started writing, I wrote and wrote and wrote, and I read and read and read. And I think for about a year, all I did was read music magazines. I bought every single kind of magazine that existed, even the ones I really didn't like and had no interest in whatsoever. And I read them from cover to cover, because it helped me to understand the style of writing that I really liked and the style I didn't like. So I could sort of, you know, kind of craft my own voice. So I would advise, read as much as you can, write as much as you can. In terms of the things we really like really descriptive writing. So, you know, obviously being a printed publication, you can't often listen to the music at the same time as reading about it. So I like our writers to be able to, you know, really well describe really well the sounds they're hearing and the emotions that the music brings out. So descriptive writing is really key. Having a little bit of knowledge about the scene and what's going on, and I don't think it's always necessary to have, you know, particular genre passions, but if you're really into, you know, hip hop or indie music or whatever it might be, knowing all the stuff that you can is you know, really helpful. And just being passionate, really, you know, to be honest, writing can be taught, but passion can't. And I think it's the same with, you know, Sarah was saying, it all stems from wanting to produce something quality for other people to enjoy. And, you know, I can teach someone how to write something a bit better, but if they don't have that initial love at the beginning, then, you know, there's not really much point. So it definitely needs to come from that place, I think.
Amazing. And Sarah, same to you really. What advice can you offer up to anybody who may be interested in a career in events or being part of a music organisation like Tracks? Where can they start and what's best to do?
So I would say get out there, go to as many gigs as you can, and maybe do some volunteering. You know, if there's gigs coming up, get in touch with the people putting the gigs on, say, can I put some posters up for you? Do you need any help on the night? Say, manning the ticket door, doing a bit of, you know, can I do some social media for you? And that kind of a thing. So you get a feel for what needs to be done to make a gig successful. Approach music venues and see if there is any chance of getting a bit of work experience. And maybe if you're feeling really brave and you feel that you've, after a while of volunteering and things, maybe try putting on your own gig and see how it goes and learn from learn through doing, and make those mistakes, because I still make mistakes, you know, and I think the more that you do it, I think with events, there are some things that you can maybe learn in a classroom, but I think really it's getting out there, getting hands-on and doing it, and working with people and learning how to handle different kinds of people, and things as well. So yeah, practical approach, I think, for events.
Yeah, so you both talked about like getting to know people and networking, but for somebody who maybe has no connections at all in the industry, where is the first place that you would recommend for that person to go, or what events would you suggest for them to visit so that they can start to create their own network within the industry? Claire, you first.
I think, well, pretty much how I started out was literally just going to as many events as I could, going to gigs and talking to people. I mean, I'm not from the Northeast. I'm based from Reading, so I literally had no friends, no network, no family, no one up here who knew me or who I knew. So I had to start from scratch, and that is literally just going to gigs and being friendly. And as you know, Sarah said, doing a little bit of volunteering. I followed people around for ages at events and things like that. Obviously, there are organisations like Tracks, like Tees Music Alliance, that would have potentially conferences or events or seminars that you could meet people and network. Increasingly, there's online things now as well. So I guess it's kind of keeping your eye out and engaging with companies like Tracks and like NARC that regularly write about these sorts of things, and figuring out who the sort of the movers and shakers are. Not that I would like to describe myself that way, but the people who are doing stuff and be friendly with them, and the knowledge comes once. Hopefully we can all be out again and in the same room. It will be an awful lot easier.
Same question to you, Sarah.
Yeah, everything that Claire said. You've also got Generator, who are fantastic, but there's quite a few online communities and forums of, like there's Darlington Music. There's well, yeah, if you like head on to Facebook, I've seen people put, I'm new to the area, I'm interested in music, tell me what's happening. There's loads of connections that can be made in those ways as well. And I suppose it depends which angle you're coming at it at, but say if you're a musician that moved to the area and you want to make some connections, I'd say get yourself to as many open mic nights as you can, get chatting to people. Get to gigs, go to gigs, support the scene and the local musical community, and you'll build relations within it, because you have faces that turn up at, there are people I know will be at certain gigs, even though I don't know them that well. You walk in, you go, oh, hi, and you see the same, and that's how you sort of make your connections with the musical community. It's get out there and go to gigs, support live music.
Yeah, and I think in the past 12 months, I've also learned that because we haven't been able to actually physically go out and get to gigs and see people, supporting artists or tagging somebody online if you think that their article is amazing, or you're seeing something really great from Noisy Daughters, sharing that information and tweeting about it, or maybe sharing on Instagram. I think that actually as well is a way to network within the kind of this weird 12 months that we've had. But that's something I definitely learned as well, and how to stay connected to people. So if there's anyone watching this and they're kind of like, well, I'm not been able to get out to gigs, also it's a great idea to get started online, like you said, do your research, give people shout outs. If you love something, say it, tell other people, share it. I think that's something as well that is definitely it can build up a new community online as well. So yeah, amazing stuff. Well, thank you so much to both of you for having a chat with me. We've pretty much run out of time, so I'm going to have to stop here, but I could chat to you both all day. So thank you so much. And remember, you can watch this on Facebook and YouTube. And by the way, you can watch it as many times as you like. So if you didn't get a chance to make as many notes as you wanted to, you can always pause and rewind. And yeah, so thank you again, Sarah and Claire.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rianne.